Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Astro Knights, which is Indie Board & Cards' newest game, or let's see, Nick Little and Will Sobel. Let me double check something, because, funny enough, as much of a fan as I am of Aeon's End, I don't believe I ever really knew who the designer was. Okay, Nick Little. So he's one of the designers, at least on the very first one. But yeah, so this is basically Aeon's End in space, like 100%. And it was a game I was initially not going to back for that very reason. I was thinking, well, I have everything for Aeon's End. Like, why would I jump on this one if it's basically the same game in space? And so the very first question that most people are going to ask is, if I have Aeon's End, should I get this? And most of those questions are answered by, it depends. Do you really love sci-fi, or do you not like sci-fi? Because that, if your answer is, I don't really care about sci-fi, don't bother. Like, honestly. This game does a little, like, some stuff a little bit different, but at its core, like, if you've played Aeon's End, I skimmed the rulebook the first time I played this, because I was like, okay, let me see if there's any major differences. Not really. In fact, I think this game might be a little bit cleaner, but that's because this came out in 2023, and Aeon's End came out in, like, 2016. So it should be cleaner, but obviously there's a shit ton of standalone Aeon's End expansions that you can get that kind of basically fit this. So if you don't, like, care about sci-fi at all, then yeah, don't bother. Like, I really think that you don't need to own both. This one is very, very close to it being kind of the same thing, that it's like, yeah, okay, take any of the nameless in Aeon's End and just give them like give them a gun, and it's like, okay, well, now you're in sci-fi, give them an energy blaster, and now the heroes are sci-fi heroes. So that's kind of the overall thing I wanted to talk about. Now, being a massive fan of Aeon's End, I had a blast, sci-fi blaster blast, playing this, and like they were able to still get it down to, I mean, they have it down to a science at this point, where it still comes down to the flip of a turn order card. It's amazing. No matter how much you feel like you're getting your ass beat, you still feel like you're doing well also. And I love that. This game has so much tension to it that it's like, oh man, because, I mean, if you watch the run through, it was like, literally, if I go, I win. If he goes, he wins. And there was a small chance that it's like, well, even if he goes, I might win. And nope. I would have straight up lost. But what's great about this game is that even when the boss can go like 4 times in a row, then it's like, oh man, okay, if we survive through this, then I'm going to get to go 3 times in a row. In a solo game anyway, like a pure solo. It's like, then I'm going to get to go 3 times in a row, and I can do a lot more damage than what he just did. Especially if minions are coming out. So I just think that that's awesome. And this was actually, funny enough, this was against Furion, that is the lowest challenge rating, the level 2. Now, I don't know how they do challenge ratings. I know they kind of have it in Aeon's End as well. But, challenge rating 2, is that, like, what does that mean? It's like, because, is that just, I know that's supposed to be the easiest out of, there are, I think, 6 overall. It's like, is a challenge rating 2 purely solo gonna feel harder than it would be if I was playing with another knight or a third or fourth player? Who knows? But what I do know is that it felt extremely balanced, which I absolutely enjoy. So let's talk about the differences that this does have over Aeon's End. So in this, if we're looking at the supply cards, so there are 2 types of fuel, a tech, and then 3 weapons. And these are all individual decks. So basically, this deck here is the lower, what did they call it? I think they actually have like names for them. If you look at that's the component anatomy. Let me look at, okay, so no, they're just different symbols of these here. So like, that's this deck. This symbol means that these are the lower level weapons. And in Aeon's End, you do kind of like a standard deck builder market setup. It's kind of like, yeah, they have randomizer cards, but it's like, okay, you have 3 gems, 2 relics, and 4 spells out. That's your standard kind of setup. You can mitigate that in any way you really want. You can have 3 relics, 3 gems, and 3 weapons, or so on and so forth. But it is kind of built that way in that there's a few like cheaper spells, a medium range spell, and a higher level spell, and then various in relics and gems. But those decks, those 9 decks, are just the same card. It's a deck of, I can't even think, a black hole, whatever. That entire deck is just the black hole. Now this game doesn't have that. You take that type of in this case, this cheaper weapons, and these are all unique cards. Well, I think there's a couple doubles in here, but essentially you just shuffle this deck, and I mean, in all reality, you're supposed to like put it down and then flip the top one over. There's no real reason to do that. So you could just take it and flip it face up, and now you're going to completely get a different supply every game. Now, some people might not like that because it's like you have no idea what you're getting. You can't truly build like that, and it might lessen variety over time because you know all the small weapons in here versus the plethora of level 2 spells in Aeon's End at this point. It's like, yeah, so you might like to be able to build and be like, ooh, I want to get 2 of those. I want to get this specific type of gem. And in here, it's kind of like, ooh, I really like that Solaris Self Fuel card. Oh, the next card isn't that. Well, dang it. And I think it's unique. I personally enjoy it because it's kind of like, I do like that randomness and variety because, I mean, they both have their place. But that is a kind of a major difference in that if you want to build a certain way, you're not going to kind of get to in here. Because, I mean, the higher level weapons, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 cards in that entire deck, and they're all different. They're all super cool looking, like the Echo Ray deals 7 damage divided however you choose to the boss and any number of minions. Well, that's awesome. That's just 7 damage. I can do 3 there, 1 there, and then, 3 up to the boss just by 1 card. But these all cost between 7 and 9 energy. In a normal deck builder, the highest level spell or the highest level card would just be the Echo Ray. But once the Echo Ray is bought, then the Fusion Sniper is the next one, and that's just a deal 9 damage. So it is a bit of variety from game to game. You might get some cool combinations, but you might also get dicked over on one of the cards coming out. The Hyperion Anomaly is gain 2 energy. If you have your maximum number of slots, gain 3 instead. I didn't plan on ever getting the maximum number of slots, so I was like, well, I'm never going to buy that. And there's no way to actually cycle it out. So it's kind of like, well, that's a shame. And you can't spend any energy, or you can't. I mean, the only way for me to get rid of it was to buy it. So if you're kind of top decking some cards, then it might not be great. But that's still a major difference from Astro Knights. It's just, this is a specific deck of this specific type of fuel. Shuffle it up and go. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of cleaner, because in the other one, if you don't want to meticulously pick out every single one, you just shuffle up the randomizers and draw. And then you have to draw the randomizer, then you have to go find it, then you have to set it up. This is just boom, 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 boom. Shuffle, you're good. Then another major difference is the fact that you have a particular home world that you get to defend, and I think that is really cool. I enjoy that quite a bit because I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep comparing it to Aeon's End. It's because it's that Aeon's End, you're just protecting Gravehold. It has 30 health, and that's it. You lose if it hits 0. Here, you lose if your homeworld hits 0, but it actually isn't just standing there being useless. It actually has an ability that you can power up through various cards. I think that is awesome. Like, its ability saved my ass. That's the only reason I won, because it was like, I bought specific weapons, cheap weapons, that let me power up the homeworld because I knew I was going to be cycling my deck. So it's like, ooh, I can power up my ability and do a bunch of damage. And then, in powering myself up, I can also power up Chorus and do a bunch of damage. That's really, really neat. I think that if there was anything that they should add to Aeon's End is a deck of, like, obviously they don't have to do Gravehold stuff, but add something where it's like a Gravehold ability. Like, it's just a deck of cards and you shuffle them and it's like, boom, here's a Gravehold ability you can do. Something like that, but I know that would be kind of, they couldn't copy that into Aeon's End because then you'd have to try and find ways to power it up, and that would just be annoying. But yeah, like, and there are 6 or 7. No, there's 6 homeworlds to defend. Because I remember it's one more than the number of enemies. So yeah, that is that's something that's new. Like I said, 6 different homeworlds. They vary in health. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So New Atlantis has 26, Nisaran has 27, Yalong has 30, Orion 3 has 33, and Solarix has 30. And they depend on how much power up you need to do. Like there's 2, 3, 2, 4, and 3. But yeah, that is a really, really neat ability. Or really neat difference. Then, another major difference is how the boss actually works. And again, this kind of comes to that Astro Knights is a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit more streamlined. Because in Aeon's End, the boss has 3 stages, is what they're called. Yeah. 3 stages. And each boss has a certain number of level 3, 2, and 1 cards. And then a certain number of standard kind of a deck of cards that can go into every nameless. So you take the level 3, you take a certain number of standard cards, shuffle those up. Then level 3 goes on bottom. Do the same with 2, then 1. And so over time, the boss will naturally just get more and more difficult. And this does so as well. But the major difference is that there's no like card leveling up. Now what you do is, depending on number of players, there's the boss deck. So here's just Furion's boss deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 cards. I lied. 9 cards. So here's the 9 cards of Furion's deck. At the bottom, you take cards that are the same number as the number of players. So in this case, there was only 1 player. So his overall deck started at 2 cards, and then the rest go in the discard pile. Because it says all. So these get shuffled, and then when the boss deck runs out, that's when he levels up. And I think that is actually really cool, and a very clean and streamlined way of making the boss more difficult. And you can see what the levels are. That's another unique way that you lose the game. If the boss cannot level up again, so if his next turn, had it not been a win or lose situation, his next turn he would have leveled up at level 3. If I'm somehow keeping it going, like I for some reason can't do enough damage to him, but I'm able to keep Chorus alive in this case, and myself alive, then if he cannot level up again, you actually lose. In Aeon's End, if you survive the deck, you win. Like, that's actually a winning condition. Either kill the enemy, knock it down to 0, or survive the entire deck. This is not that. It's you win by knocking him down to 0. In fact, I thought it was actually going to say. Yeah, game end. The players are victorious when the boss has 0 health. The players lose if any of the following. All players are exhausted, except in a solo. The homeworld has 0 health, or the boss needs to draw a card when the deck is empty and all of the boss level tokens have already been played. So that's actually even more interesting, because you normally want the Nameless and Aeon's End to level up, because you're like, okay, let's just survive the deck. But what's also really cool is how many cards he starts with. Because if in a solo game, he just started with 2. In the first entire round of the turn order deck, he's going to play both these cards. And then next turn, or next full round, he's going to level up. And I think the level up is really cool because it's just, again, it's very clean. You just take his thing, okay, well now level 2. And this has an instant effect and an activate effect every time now that he now goes. And it also buffs the minion's health. So it's, again, very streamlined. They don't have to have a whole bunch of different cards. That you just take this boss deck and, okay, how many? There's 3 of us. Okay, well now his deck is going to have everything except these 3 level 4s, meaning that he's not going to level up as quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 cards in here. And no matter what, the boss goes twice. So naturally, it's going to take 3 full things before his deck runs out. And he's only adding 3 more cards when he does level up, versus the 2 cards and the 7 cards he added. I think both work completely. I think they're both great. They both have their merits, and I like the fact that you actually lose if you can't level up, meaning that the boss just got too powerful for you to realistically stop. I think that works here. And I think it works in Aeon's End as like a, hey, we survived it, and it naturally we got too powerful, so we killed the Nameless and everything it had to bring, or it exhausted out, or whatever the thematic reason is. And you also don't have to be like, okay, we have this, so okay, we need to add 3 regular standards to the level 3, and then 2 to the 2, and 1 to the 1, shuffle those, boom, boom, boom. It can be kind of a bit of a setup. Astro Knights is like, all right, there we go. That's the deck, and there's the discard pile, and we are ready to play. I think they were trying to do as much as possible to keep the core of this game system in it, while also reducing as much meticulous fiddly setupness that it's like, well, I mean, because my run-through took like 30-ish minutes, and probably Aeon's End takes about an hour if you don't just outright lose. So, even the minion's health, it's like, okay, let's draw the card. Oh, the minion has 4 health. Neat. And some cards actually get removed, get destroyed from his deck, making it thinner, meaning he's going to level up more. And, I mean, because this Titan Land Rover, for example, has 4 health. If I don't kill it by the time he goes to level 2... then it just gains 4 health. That's one of the instant minions in play get 4 health. So for some reason, if he had 1 health, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get to do it next turn. Oh, he levels up. Well, now he's up to, now he gains 4. So now he's actually at 5 health. And that sucks. But I did, because I'm awesome. But I like that. That's just how the minions are going to get tougher without it being like, oh, they just didn't have to print on the card. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the major differences. You have completely just individual decks for the supply. The homeworld has an ability; it can actually defend itself, and the boss setup is way more streamlined. So, but are those differences enough for me to be like, you need to own Astro Knights and Aeon's End, or you need to throw away all your Aeon's End stuff and get Astro Knights? They're not. Like, I'm gonna keep this because I love Aeon's End, and therefore I love Astro Knights. It depends on how I'm feeling. This is right now in its own contained box, and my Aeon's End stuff is in 2 wooden carrying cases because there's so much shit for that. On top of the Gravehold stuff and the Legacy stuff, that there's just no good way that Aeon's End is stored right now. And this is just like, great. And also, what's neat And here's something that I'm hoping, oh man, that would be sexy, that I'm hoping they do at some point for Aeon's End, is all the bosses have tuck boxes to store their stuff. Now, I have no idea if this is, because this is technically a Kickstarter version, I have no idea if that's because of that. But they have their dividers. Like right now, here's like the supply deck divider. Everything fits very succinctly into here. And all I do is take the Fury Artillery deck, his cards, and then level up, and they all fit in here, and boom. If that's something that they end up doing for a storage solution for Aeon's End, I would be ecstatic. Like, I would just be so happy about that, that if every boss got their own tuck box, oh, that'd be sexy. And then this is all, and you just pick your card, you pick your boss, and ooh, let's hope so. Let's hope so. But and also what's really cool is everything has full artwork, no border edges, which I know they do for Aeon's End now. The artwork is fantastic, super cool. I wouldn't call this really a thematic game, but because it is just kind of how you're playing your cards. But it's definitely a tense and exciting game, and completely unique in its deck building. The fact of the matter, whenever you're popping off like your weapons, then you put them to your discard pile in a certain order. Cards you buy immediately go, but then your hand, you choose how you want to put it into your discard pile, and then whenever you have to shuffle, you don't. You just flip your deck, and so you actually have a lot of control on how your deck is going to come in. And I got into a really good rhythm of boom, this hand is going to be me charging up my ability, and by the time that comes around, I'm going to have all my weapons in my discard pile to do a 8 to 10 damage attack. That's super cool, and you get to do that with, I mean, just with this, with every hero. You get to be like, how do I want to play him? Like, obviously with him, I felt like getting a lot of cheaper weapons so they're in my discard pile a lot, but you don't even have to ever use their ability. You can be like, man, I just want to go for high-powered attacks and whoop on the boss that way. And you can. That's just something you can do. So yeah, I think Astro Knights is great. If you don't own Aeon's End, and it's kind of like, well, which one should I pick? If you love fantasy, Aeon's End. If you love sci-fi, Astro Knights. If you love both equally, if you're like a Lord of the Rings and Star Wars buff, half your house is fantasy and the other half is sci-fi, Aeon's End definitely has a lot more stuff. Like, obviously, it's been out since 2016, and every year they have like, they have 2 legacies, they have the base game, and I think they have 3 standalone expansions, and they just released another expansion. So if you're wanting something that is going to be like a lifestyle cooperative deck builder, I would say Aeon's End. But if it's just core game to core game, I would actually probably say Astro Knights. And the only reason is if it's core game to core game, this is a lot cleaner to set up. It's just, and it's because it's also newer, therefore it allows for that. But you are getting the exact same feel. Like, it blew my mind that I was like, wow, once again, this new game is coming down to a card flip. And who would have gone next? He would have gone next, and I would have lost. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. Like, I enjoyed this quite a bit. And because of that, and for something I've been planning on working on, for content for the channel, kind of like what I did with my Final Girl stuff. So I had a run through and a discussion for Final Girl, but then now I have separate videos of the different boxes of that. I'm going to be doing that with Astro Knights, so I'm going to be doing different videos of the other bosses. And I will still, to this day, state that this is a boss battler. Like, it, just because it doesn't have any miniatures, you have a character that, even if you're playing multiplayer, fighting a boss that levels up. Like, I mean, I can't really think, I mean, unless there's some weird hard and fast rule that a boss battler needs to be miniatures, you are setting up a boss. It's just with cards now. So yeah, like I think Astro Knights and Aeon's End is a great boss battler. And yeah, so definitely keep an eye out for my other videos on this with just to see how the different enemies fight. I will be fighting them at normal difficulty, but if you also just want something exciting, this does have an expert and challenging mode. Like, I guess I can talk about that real quick. It's called variable difficulty. Aeon's End also has that for challenging, but for Furion, the expert difficulty is rules. During step 2 of the rules on the boss mat, you decrease the artillery track by 2 instead of 3. So, therefore, for example, if he ever got to artillery level 9, at the end of his turn, he would have done 3 artilleries. On expert mode, that would be 4, because it would only be going down by 2. But then, nightmare difficulty is during step 2 of the rules of the boss mat, decrease it by 1 instead of 3. What the fuck? God. That would mean, if for some weird reason he got to 9 on nightmare difficulty, he would do that ability 9 times. Wow. Why doesn't this just say rules during step 2 of the rules of the boss mat? You lose. Like, draw and resolve the top card of the artillery deck, then place it in the discard pile. Okay. Decrease the artillery track by 1. Repeat until the artillery track is less than 3. Oh, okay. Less than 3. So, he would do that 7 times. Whatever. But anyway, yeah, actually, while I have this open, I will say my biggest negative of this game. Cards are great, full art, awesome, very clean, very clear. I don't know why, but the player thing, the player track, and the boss thing is the thinnest cardboard. I think it feels very cheap. Like these definitely needed to be thicker. Like these are barely thicker than the cards, honestly, and I do not like that. They did so well on the production, except for that. I think that's actually just kind of ass in terms of overall production. I like the boss turn cards. I think it's flashy. The art's awesome. I mean, even the level up things are thicker. So these tokens right here are thicker than the actual playmats or the actual boss card, I guess, and then the knight card. So that's what's kind of really bad. I don't know. That's the only negative I have on the production value, and it's not that big of a deal because they don't do anything. You're not going to be handling them a lot. But still, you kind of want your stuff to be nicer. I wish they were thicker just for them to be thicker and better. But yeah, that's something I wanted to kind of bring up. That's like my major negative is honestly that. And yeah, like it's fantastic. I mean, Astro Knights, 9 out of 10, 100%, 9 out of 10. It's great. Like, I don't know how well it did on Kickstarter. I can actually kind of look that up if I want to, because they mention expansions in like they're talking about like the certain decks, and they're like, right now this deck has 10 cards in it, could have more with expansions. It made 151,000 on a pledge of 20,000. Funny enough, it says a streamlined co-op deck builder inspired by Aeon's End. I should have just said that and then left it alone. So I hope it did well enough. I think this game definitely deserves expansions. It can easily just get as many as Aeon's End, and I would buy them. I think that they both... I'm going to keep this, even though I have everything for Aeon's End, because sometimes I just don't want to set that up. And this, I could be like, ooh, let's just pop it out. But yeah, that will be it for my thoughts on this. So Astro Knights, 9 out of 10. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.